Hi, I'm Norm Kern, and I'd like to welcome you to Access MC, Access to Motorcycling. Each month, we bring you motorcycle races, people, and activities. If you're already a motorcycle enthusiast, then this show is especially for you. Even if you're not currently a rider, there's no need to miss out on the fun. Motorcycles, riders, and activities are everywhere. This month, we're going to a professional motorcycle hill climb. This particular event is held on the second Sunday of October each year at Oregonia, Ohio. It's promoted by the Dayton Motorcycle Club, which has hosted this event now for over 40 years. Here we are at Oregonia, Ohio. It's the second Sunday of October, 1990, and with me to describe the action is Bob Moore.
Thank you, Norm. This hill climb has been held here at the Fritz Powell Farm since 1948, when the Miami Valley Motorcycle Club first started it. They continued to sponsor the event clear up until 1965, when they disbanded their club. At that time, they turned the event over to the Dayton Motorcycle Club, who has continued to promote it in a championship manner. The event, when it first started, was just a small hill climb and drew a few hundred people and some local riders. Today, it's a national championship event. It probably has 10,000 people come to spectate it, and the hill climbers come in from all over the United States. Here we have the hill climbers early in the morning signing up with our curtain course, Kay Denny. The event itself is the last event on the national championship calendar. As always, it has a championship resting on the final standings. This is a close look at some of the machines. This is a machine that was built by Conley Newsom, the president of the event, and they were ridden by Charlie Casey. Norm, what do you think about that type of equipment? Pretty exotic, isn't it?
Yeah, as we'll see when we talk to Earl Bowlby, it's built especially for this kind of event.
The day of the event was pretty muddy. It had rained quite hard Friday and Saturday, and the hill was a sea of mud. But the volunteers got on their shovels, and with the hill climbers and people from the crowd, they cleared the mud away, and by the time the climb was supposed to start, they had the hill in pretty good condition. The hill itself is probably 500 foot high, but they actually only use about 370 to 400 foot of it. They need the last 100 foot to deaccelerate because there's a pond at the top of the hill, and if the riders clear the top of the hill running full bore, they end up taking a bath, so they back it off. Now here we are talking to Mr. Earl Bowlby, and he is quite an interesting person.
Points runoff here. You're only 3 points down from Wade Williams, and I understand you're parked right next to him. Are you checking him out, or is that accident?
We're checking each other out.
Is that right?
That's the way it goes.
Well, Earl, what's the hill look like after all this rain and stuff we've had?
Well, you could say we've got the hill wet down today, so there won't be any dust today.
Are you going to change gears, or you just run one all the time?
I'm going to start with what I thought I should have, which is what's on it now, and if that doesn't work, I'll change my gearing.
Earl, I understand you started hill climbing in 1955. What was the year you won your first national championship?
The first National Pro Championship was 1968.
Okay, and you started amateur hill climbing in 55, and then when did you turn?
Amateur was 1961. I didn't have a motorcycle in 55.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry.
I had a wife in 55.
Yeah, I recognize that. When you won your first national win?
1968.
Okay.
Well, let's back up on that. I won the first national in Canada in 1965. Canadian national.
Okay. And then you won your first national championship in?
The USA National in 1968.
Okay, and you've been pretty strong ever since then, running right in the top, what, 1, 2, and 3 probably?
Well, anywhere from 1 to 7.
Okay, now you've won 9 national championships, right? Grand National Championships, and you're after your 10th one this year.
We're looking for number 10, and I don't know whether it's out there or not, but we'll look for it, try to get it.
Well, after the effort you've made always when the chips were down, we know you're going to be in the hunt, that's for sure. How's the bike running?
Bike's running good today. I had to do a little repair work on it last week because it was a little out of tune last week.
Well, we know you're riding the Beezer. You want to describe it for me?
Sure. Let's take a look at it here. What do you want to look at first?
Well, everybody's always interested in the chassis because that's what they see mostly. You might want to describe how a hill climber is quite a bit different from a street bike.
Okay, well, a street bike, the rear wheel set's clear up here, about right there. And the hill climber, you have to have it so much longer so you don't tip it over backwards going up a steep hill. And it's got a big rear sprocket on it. And we don't run any transmission gears, we run direct drive, so we're running in high gear. And that's the reason for the big sprocket here. And then you get up to the motor. It's got 90% nitro mix in it, and pretty high performance all the way through. Pretty high compression pistons, pretty radical camshafts, and Grand Prix racing carburetors that work good on fuel, nitro.
But this started out life as a 650 twin, right?
This started from the factory in England as a PSA 650 Lightning. This one started in 1971.
Okay, and you've bored it out. Did you stroke it probably?
Well, we bore and stroke both. We're allowed 800 cc's, and this one's 790 or a little better right now.
Okay. And you're running nitromethane fuel, percentage-wise, straight or what?
Around 92% nitro, and the rest alcohol or something else to make the nitro ignite better.
Okay. Now, this is not a modified street bike. It is a specially engineered, designed strictly for one thing only, hill climbing, right?
It's really good for only one thing, and one thing only, is to go up a hill as fast as possible.
Now, who built it?
I built it.
You done all the design work and the shop work and everything yourself?
99.9% I built.
Well, it's a beautiful work of art, that's for sure, Earl. Earl, we wish you lots of luck today. We hope you win your 10th Grand National Championship. You have any...
After that long interview with Earl Bowlby, we like to have a picture of the hollow where the hill climb actually takes place. Part of the hollow is used for a pit area where the climbers bring their tow trucks and things and unload and set up for the day's activities. But the people also have to walk up through there, so they get a chance to walk among the hill climbers and see the equipment and pretty well get a feel for what's going on during the day. These machines burn a mixture of fuel, nitro and alcohol. Depending on the particular rider as to what the actual blend will be, some of your top-notch riders run 100% nitromethane.
We're here talking to John Williams out of Canada, who's the chairman of the board of the Williams Racing Department up here. His sons Greg and Wade both ride. Tell us how kind of year you've had, John.
It's been a good year for me. I packed it in the year before last, and I went and rode my Harley all over the place, enjoyed myself. And I woke up one day and I said, well, there's something I'm missing. So back it was, hill climbing. So it's been a full season for me this year. And I haven't got my first yet, but I've been real close, and I think I'm running in around 5th or 6th place, I think, for points overall for the World Championship.
We're standing here beside the STP bike here. I know that you built this, John. You want to describe it for us?
Well, it's a 4-cylinder Honda. It was built by Littner and Bush out of Thornhill, Ontario, and they put the whole package together for me. It's fuel injected, it runs on 100 proof nitro, and believe it or not, the motor is 16 years old. It's an old 1973 Honda, and this fellow up there, this Frank Littner, he's kind of his baby is these 750 Hondas. He makes them go. He puts them in sprint cars and everything. And we've got a real project going on this thing this winter, because Greg is coming out of the 800 class, so that means there's going to be 3 Williamses at war next year. So not only going against the rest of the fellows, we're going to have to be outrunning each other.
Well, John, let me ask you something. How old are you?
What did Bowlby tell you he was? I'm about the same. Is he still 39 or what?
Well, I think Bowlby's trailer partner was a guy by the name of Moses. I'm not real sure about that, though.
I'm 51.
Well, John, let me ask you this, though. You're in tremendous shape. You look like you're about 25. Do you work hard at staying in shape?
Oh, things are really tough up in Canada. You got to take any job you can get. I work in construction. I got to get it.
Okay, I can understand that then. Construction work is a tough way to earn a living, and you're also very, very active.
Well, I find it kind of lifestyle I lead. A lot of people, I don't know, when they get married, they seem to, it's picket fence and a barbecue on the weekend, and through the cases of beer, and then back to work Monday. I don't have time for that. If I'm not racing, I get on my Harley and I go out and find some new roads somewhere and I have no time to be inactive. People ask me, well, did you see that program on TV? I forget what a television is. And you know something else? The way they got all the media is hyping up all the news about this going on and that going on. What I do is I turn the radio off, I turn the television off when the news comes on. I don't buy no more newspapers. I'm sick and tired of people talking down. I think we all got to get optimistic about what things are going on in life.
Give me a synopsis of your career. How did you actually get involved in motorcycling, and did you start right in with hill climbing, or did something eventually lead you down that road?
Well, I rode bikes ever since I was, at 12 years old. We used to sneak over to my friend's barn, and his dad had a little Francis Barnett. I don't know if you ever heard of it or not, but most people haven't. And it had a little steel fender on the back, and I'd sit on that, and we'd sneak out on this bike and just tear around all over the place. But I've always ridden bikes, and then a friend of mine one day said, my car's blown up, I want to go down to Kitchener and see the Canadian Championship hill climb. I said, what? He said, a hill climb. And I didn't have a clue what a hill climb was. So we got there late, and I'll never forget, Charlie Jacobs from Bangor, Pennsylvania was on a Harley, and it was a 200-foot hill down in a little bowl like an amphitheater. And I'm walking towards this thing, and I hear this Harley just cranking, and I thought, my God, the hair's going up in the back of my neck. I come over the top, and I look down, and here Charlie Jacobs takes out of that hole. I turned to my buddy, and I said, that's it. I know what I've been put on this earth for. I'm going hill climbing.
Went down, this is the 43rd running of the double staircase hill climb, and it's getting to be quite an institution here in southern Ohio, and you're part of that institution.
Well, thank you very much. It's a real pleasure to come down here and to see how all the club members really work hard to make this event a first-class event. This event here is a credit to the sport of hill climbing.
One nice thing about this hill climb is the fact that it has the nickname of the Devil's Staircase. That was given to it some years ago by the professional riders themselves. Most hills that they climb throughout the United States are just an inclined plane. It's more or less like a drag strip up a hill. But the hill at Oregonia has 3 very distinct terraces, and they have to get on and off the throttle at proper times. Too soon, too late, and they have a bad run going. So someone said, boy, they sure have a devil of a time getting up that staircase, and the name has stuck down through the years. It has the Devil's Staircase now as a nationally known name all over the United States. The crowd comes in from Indiana, Kentucky, Ohio, Pennsylvania, West Virginia, and down from Michigan. These are the last, maybe what you might say to be the roses of summer, because this is the last big event on the motorcycle calendar. And they come down and to have a good time and meet with their friends for one last time before the winter doldrums set in. So it's really like just one big picnic in the open air. And the weather, when it is beautiful and the trees are in color, it is gorgeous down in Warren County. The people there just have a tremendously good time. It's a well-behaved crowd, and it's a family crowd. People bring their kids and their picnic baskets and sit up on the hill. Just get to enjoy the people and the atmosphere. And they see some of the top hill climbers from all over the United States come in. This gentleman now getting ready to go up the hill, this is in the 500cc class. This is an older gentleman. He's probably in his late 50s or early 60s. He's been hill climbing for a long time, and this is Leon Everett out of Vermontville, Michigan. And he turned a respectable time. He turned about 9.077. But if you'll notice, he got on and off the throttle and easing it over the jumps. Later on, you'll see some of the more aggressive climbers never shutting the throttle off and actually jumping their way up that hill. Matter of fact, I'll tell you, it gets kind of scary when you watch these older guys do this, but they seem to have the skill and the ability to read the hill, to understand where they want to run, and where to get on and off the throttle. The younger guys try to do it with courage, so it's a matter of skill with the old-timers and courage from the young kids. And I'll tell you one thing, it makes for a highly interesting afternoon of high-speed hill climbing. The machines are terrific. They're well-manufactured, designed pieces of equipment. They're using space-age technology now. The wheelbases are a lot longer than a normal street machine, and the horsepower that these things generate are probably on the same level as an Indianapolis race car when it comes to horsepower per pound of weight on the machine. The riders kind of sit there at first, looking over the hill, making their last decision of where to run, psyching themselves up. When they pop that clutch, boy, they're off and running. Now that was Randy Gabriel on a Harley out of Columbus, Ohio, and Randy is a top-notch competitor. He has a lot of people in the crowd that really follow him, And I'll tell you, when he takes the log, they really gave him a good cheer to get him off the ground. The machines that these guys ride are both 2-stroke and 4-stroke technology. They're Japanese Kawasaki's, Hondas, Suzuki's. There's a lot of English Triumphs, BSAs, and we have the American Harley-Davidson. Up until just a few years ago, we still had a few of the American Indians in competition, but these have become so valuable as museum pieces that you very rarely see an Indian anymore on the circuit. You'll notice from the different ruts down in the pits how each rider takes a different groove up the hill. Some like to take it up the middle, some off to one side. Each end has his own option and his own choice of where he wants to ride and which he thinks is the better way to get up the hill. Now you'll notice this rider coming over in the middle of the section. He feels like maybe the middle of the hill is much better. The professional hill climbers actually have 2 attempts at the hill. The first climb can be fast or slower, but regardless of which way it goes, they take the faster of the 2 hill climbs, and that is their official attempt at the day. If you set fast time on your first climb up the hill, you do not have to run again until somebody beats that time. Consequently, many times the winner actually only makes 1 run up the hill. But a lot of times it's a bonsai attempt because they get beat by some other competitor and they have to come out and then try to regain that fast time. And believe me, we've seen some fantastic runs at that hill where they never shut them off and they just jump off the bikes as they go over the crest of the hill, trying to get every last 100th of a second in time. The crowd really gets into it too. They press the side of the hill trying to get through the barricades to get a closer view. When you have a large crowd like that, it makes it kind of hard for everybody to get on the hill where the actual climbing takes place, so they go on the opposite side of the valley and actually watch the hill climb from a natural grandstand over there. And the view is quite spectacular because you can see the whole thing from start to finish from that side of the creek bottom. You can tell from the sound of these engines how powerful they are. Now this particular one was a snowmobile engine. That sounds like it's out of place, but would you believe that this guy finished 4th place overall in the standings at the end of the year, and that was Ted Wilkins. It's spectacular when they get them up on the rear wheel like that, but it's really costing them time because they have to get out of the throttle to bring the front end back down. So they try to keep the front wheel off the ground, but keep it in such a manner that the rear wheel is still climbing all the while. Years ago, we watched probably some of the best hill climbers that the United States has ever known, and they very seldom have ever put the front wheel on the actual hill. They just carry it from bottom to top. That's the way that they get maximum traction when they go up the hill.
There's a lot of smoke coming out from this one.
Well, this is a 2-cycle machine, Norm. It fires on every stroke, and it actually has oil mixed with the gasoline for lubrication, so they do smoke quite a bit. Now this guy sitting down at the bottom of the hill now is the old-timer Earl Bowlby, and I'll tell you, this guy is a champion in every sense of the word. He's a very, very fierce competitor, man. He's so quiet and easygoing in the pits. But boy, when he takes to the hill, man, he is a genuine tiger. What amazes me more than anything is the ages of these hill climbers. We have hill climbers probably it's in their late teens, clear up until they're 70-some years of age. Some years ago, the old man of the mountain, Howard Mitchell from York, Pennsylvania, came into the Devil's Staircase to try his luck. He brought in a 1927 Indian with him. And I'll tell you, when that man shook hands with me, it was like shaking hands with a wet dish mop. And I was really afraid for him when he started his climb. But I'll tell you one thing, he sure made everybody look silly because he took home fast time and top money. So age is no handicap when it comes to the sport of hill climbing. You just have to have good reflexes and a good eye to pick your line when you go up the hill. Now this is rider number 1, Jeff Roeder. Jeff is last year's reigning champion, and he had a good time, but it wasn't quite good enough. If you can tell from your screen by looking at those ruts, that is heavy clay that is wet, and you can see how deep it is. What causes those ruts is the chains that's on the rear wheel. They really move a tremendous amount of dirt when they fire up and you come out of those pits. Now this is one of the Williamses on one of the 4-cylinder Hondas, and I'll tell you, it is spectacular to listen to those machines front, and they are beautifully built, beautifully built. The only trouble was John here had a little bit of a problem. He lost control of his machine, and I don't think he was hurt at all, was he, Norm?
Not really. He was just shook up a little bit.
Now this is his son Wade going up the hill to check Dad out. And believe it or not, he's trying to figure out what made Dad fall. He's looking at the groove that he was following up there, and I'll bet you doggone good and well that Wade picks a different track than the one Dad had. Rider number 71 here, this is Charlie Casey. Charlie had a good run at the hill. He turned it in 7.199, but it wasn't good enough for fast time. Tom Chatterton actually won the hill climb with a 7.022. And Tom really didn't compete that much on the circuit this year, Norm. He probably only ran in 3 out of the 11 events. Would make you wonder how well he would have done if he would have made them all.
Do you remember what the all-time record for the hill is?
Well, Norm, the record varies somewhat because they keep changing the length of the hill due to where they turn the top light off at. Due to a safety factor, the hill climbers themselves determine where the top light will be mounted. So sometimes we'll run a 360-foot hill and sometimes a 390-foot hill. So we don't actually have an all-time record because of the length there. But these machines are so different from what they just ran just a short 10 years ago. Back then they still had the footboards on them. The machines were just basically street bikes that had been stripped down, you know, used for hill climbing.
And they had no rear suspension then either.
Not really, no. No, the old JD Harleys and Indians and things, they just had the old hardtails on there. Some of them didn't even use chains on the rear wheel, they just had cleats on the wheels. Now this is Tim Fraser out of Lancaster, Ohio, on a BSA, and boy, I'll tell you, Timmy can really go. He's related to Earl Bowlby. I think he's married Bowlby's daughter, which in itself is another story about the family of hill climbers. These things go back 3 and 4 generations. And the hill climbers, they travel together, and the kids grow up together, and I'll be doggone if they don't marry one another. So now we've got daughters of hill climbers marrying sons of hill climbers, and their children are climbing hills. So it's not hard to see why these people are so fantastically good at it. It's in the genes.
Yep.
And they've got tremendous amounts and years of experience to draw from when they just decide that they want to put together a bike and learn how to do it. They're a very unique family. They're almost like a modern gypsy. They travel all over the United States in their motorhomes, and they're very closely knit. They're a very neat type of people. I really love to mix with them because they're so friendly and outgoing. Well, it looks like we're just about at the end of another day, Norm, with the 1990 hill climb. The second Sunday in October of this year, we'll have it again down at the Fritz Powell Farm.
Well, Bob, thanks a lot for describing all the action for us. It's really been interesting to hear about the history of the event and to learn so much about the bikes and riders.
Well, it's been my pleasure, Norm. I had a chance to see my first hill climb back in the early 50s, about 1956. And it was something that I've never forgotten, and I really, truly enjoy it. It's something that you got to do at least once every summer because these people and the event itself is fantastic.
Well, Bob, thanks again.
It's my pleasure, Norm.
this year's Oregonia Hill Climb was a record not only for Oregonia but for the professional hill climb sport in general, paying a record purse and having a record turnout. That's all we have time for this month. So until next time, I'd like to personally invite you to join the over 7 million riders who enjoy the world of motorcycling. See you next time.